Hello everyone, welcome to the another session of Digital Signal Processing. I am Aruna Tyagi, working as Assistant Professor at Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College. So in this session, we'll be starting up a new topic, that is the designing of IAR filters, in which I'll be telling you about the different transformation techniques. But before beginning this transformation technique, we have certain points to discuss and remember before we start designing an IAR filter. So like in the previous sessions, we have been talking about FIR filters and IAR filters. We have been designing various structures corresponding to both type of filters. Now as we start designing the filters, actually we need to see that we need to design a filter which is quite stable, which is linear in the function, but it is able to give me the correct output or the desired output according to my application. So basically I am going to design certain kind of transfer functions which fulfill my requirement. So when I start designing infinite impulse response filters, I need to see there are certain limitations, like because I am designing and working with the digital domain, I need to see the case that I cannot design IAR filters digitally directly, or in another language, if I tell you that if I am designing an IAR filter, the first step would be designing a filter in the analog domain, and then I would have certain kind of transformation to produce an IAR filter with the same response, same kind of transfer function in the digital domain. So before beginning the creation of the transfer function digitally for the IAR filters, before creating a transfer function in the analog domain, we will study two different transformation techniques which would help us in the designing of digital IAR filters. So the most popular techniques are impulse invariant transformation and bilinear transformation. We'll be discussing about impulse invariant transformation in this session. So what is impulse invariant transformation? This is a method which is used to design a discrete filter that yields a similar frequency response to that of the analog filter. So as I have just told you that we do not have any direct method to create IAR filter digital in nature, I need to create a filter in the analog domain, and then by using this technique of impulse invariant transformation, I would try to generate a similar kind of filter response by transforming it. So next is, we have two significant reasons for performing this, that is the main function of a filter, maybe IAR or maybe FIR. So we can separate the signals which have been fused together, and we can also use them to retrieve the signals that have been distorted, maybe by noise or maybe by some other factor when we are transmitting the signal from transmitter to receiver. So when we design this filter, we try to find out that one very important point of information, that is the impulse response of the analog filter. And whenever I am transforming the impulse response of analog filter into the digital filter, I would have to see that response remains the same. So here in this technique, which is called as impulse invariant transformation, I have to come back to the time domain impulse response. So when observing the impulse response of a continuous and a discrete response system, it is hard to miss that they correspond with each other. There would be one kind of mapping between analog domain and the digital domain as well. So whenever I am representing my analog system or a continuous kind of system, what do I see? That this continuous domain is basically being represented by my S domain, that is my particularly Laplace domain. So whenever I am representing a transfer function in the analog domain, I would be talking about the Laplace factor every time. So whenever we have a transfer function, we have a numerator in the form of a rational function, we have a denominator. Whatever roots are there of the numerator and denominator, we call them as the zeros and the poles of that particular transfer function. So that is a standard form in which we represent any transfer function whenever we are performing any structural design or maybe the response design. So for every pole of the transfer function in the analog domain, it can be mapped to a pole on the transfer function in the digital domain itself. or particularly talking about, when I talk about S domain, I'm mapping these all the points of poles and zeros in the Z domain, that is the Z transform. So how does that mapping is being performed when we are talking about this impulse invariant transformation? I have this kind of standard function that I start with. This is my numerator, this is my denominator. I am not considering zeros here because my full concentration is onto the poles, because they are only responsible for making my system stable or unstable. So I am expanding this equation for different values of I ranging from 1 to n, and these are different poles of this particular system that I am trying to represent. So this A is a real-time coefficient showing out the magnitude, and the poles are different values of K ranging from 1 to n, where n would be defined by me according to the choice what should be the order of the filter, or what should be the level of stages I desire to have my particular response from that particular transfer function. So here in impulse invariant transformation, I have three different steps in which I move from my S domain to my Z domain. So basically my task is only to change these two variables in my transfer function. So the very first thing is, let me start with my HAS, the Laplace domain function, which is representing the function of my analog domain. And finally I have to go to a function which seems like a function of my Z domain, HZ. So the very first thing is, I must be able to create this HT, that is a time domain response of that particular function being represented by this HAS. So going back from my Laplace domain to the time domain would simply require me to take the inverse Laplace transform. So the previous equation that we have seen, I would take the inverse Laplace transform and try to come back into the time domain. So the variable which was initially S has now been converted to T simply by taking inverse Laplace transform for that particular function. So here I can see AI is that magnitude, the real coefficient of the numerator, and this exponential and this unit step function is the result of impulse Laplace transform. Next step is, when I got this T as a continuous variable, continuous time variable, and I need to move into Z domain, which is representing the digital domain. So I have to perform a basic function with the very first function which is required for coming from T to Z, which I call as sampling. So mathematically performing sampling means I would simply replace this continuous time T with some kind of discrete variable being represented by n, and T being the sampling period. For simplification, sometimes we consider T as 1. So here what I am doing, I will replace this particular T function with this particular variable, that is my n, and capital T, which is my sampling time. So after performing this substitution here in this equation, the fresh equation I am obtaining is this, where these variables have taken the place of the continuous variable T. So this is my sampled response which I have obtained from this continuous response. Next is, now I want to obtain a transfer function which is digital in nature, so that I can create a digital IIR filter. So what I have to do, to move from a sampled response which I have just created in the previous slide, HNT, I have to move it into a response which is being represented by HZ. So moving from a sampled variable to Z variable, the simple transform that I would require would be Z transform. So this is how we use one-sided Z transform from 0 to infinity, Hn Z raised to the power minus n. So this Hn is nothing but the sampled response that we have just created into the previous slide. So we have to substitute that equation here, and we would get my desired Hz. So looking over here, this one is a response which is completely representing my digital system, where I have this discretized variable along with this z variable. So nothing, no factor representing my analog domain or continuous kind of quantity is now present here. Now by permutation of these range of variable, this is I is equal to 1 to m showing me the finite summation and 0 to infinity showing the infinite summation, I would try to replace these two summation and would try to take the perfect representation for z transform of this function, which is e raised to the power say something x and ut. So we can map these functions to some standard functions and take their z transform. So after taking the z transform, what the system should look like? This is the z transform of this particular function, which seems like exponential, or you may say some kind of value a raised to the power un being transformed using z domain. So this is my final representation of the system with which I began. In the first equation, I was working with s factor. Here I am working with the z factor. So finally, after performing these 2 or 3 mathematical permutations, I am able to create a function which represents my digital IIR system. Now I need to create a relationship between these two factors, which are s and z. So that was my first representation. I am only considering the denominator, otherwise amplitude we had seen was being represented by the real coefficient ai. So this was my first function with which I started all the derivation, and this is the denominator which I have reached after the transformation. So I need to see in this domain, this particular s is representing one pole which is being represented as pi, and here this particular denominator would give me another pole for z, that is e raised to the power pit. So these are two poles which map to each other, one representing the analog domain, another representing the digital domain. So this is how we are mapping my s plane to the p plane. Now we'll be going into the depth of this relationship and try to create some relationship between two frequencies as well. So if I talk about my s plane, the frequency the symbol I use to represent is solid omega, and this is my digital omega frequency. So as I'm finding the relationship between s plane and z plane, I need to find the relationship between these two frequencies as well. So how do we find the relationship? First, I need to see the graphical representation of two domains. I know if I talk about this s plane, this is my sigma and this is my j omega, the x axis, and similarly if I talk about my z plane, I represent it with a circle having a radius r, and whenever we put a radius r is equal to 1, we call it as a unit circle. So I need to map these two planes to each other, that how the representation of the poles into this particular s plane would be mapped into this particular z plane. So here we would see this is the pole in the digital domain that we have just created, and we have the relationship here that s is equal to some pole is equal to pi. So simply substituting that value of s here at this particular place, e raised to the power p into t, p is equal to this s factor, I am getting this new equation representing again the pole of this particular plane, but in the form of the representation factor s, where ts is my sampling time. Now this s, which is my Laplace operator, I can expand it in the form of the sigma, the real axis, and the imaginary axis. So this is how I represent my s, sigma plus j omega, and also I represent my z as r e raised to the power j omega in my polar coordinates. So when both of these are poles, and I say that whenever I perform a transformation, I am trying to map one pole into the one domain into the another domain. So I'll simply equate these two and try to simplify this equation so that I can find a relationship between the analog frequency and the digital frequency. So this has been expanded. I got two part, one which is real, second part representing my imaginary section. So in this left part also, this R is basically which is representing my real part, and this e raised to the power j omega is representing my imaginary part. So I need to simply compare this real part with the real part on the left hand side and right hand side, imaginary part and imaginary part of left hand side and right hand side. So I get these two equations after this comparison. So this R is e raised to the power sigma ts, and e raised to power j omega is e raised to power j omega ts. So from this expression here, I can see this is my digital frequency and this is my analog frequency. So I can conclude that digital frequency that I am obtaining after Z transformation, that is equal to analog frequency, but it has been multiplied by Ts, which is nothing but the sampling time. So if I consider my sampling time to be 1, in a short form I can say that after impulse invariant transformation, both the frequency, the one which is representing my analog domain and other which is representing my digital domain, they are more or less same. Looking at the another factor, the real part, R is equal to e raised to the power sigma ts, I can conclude some other wonderful things in different cases. Like if I consider the case 1 in which I am considering the sigma is less than 0. So for that you have to look at to the graph that we represent in my S plane. So when I say that sigma is less than 0, that means I am talking about this particular area. Another case I would consider when sigma is equal to 0, that means I am talking about this particular y-axis, and the third case that I would consider here would be sigma is greater than 0. Greater than 0 means I am talking about this particular area. So talking technically, these three cases are representing the right part of the S plane, the y-axis of the S plane, and the left part of the S plane. So one by one we'll see that when we are putting these limit into the real part, what do I obtain? So whenever sigma is less than 0, R is ranging from 0 to 1. That means whatever Z plane I am trying to create, this is R is ranging from 0 to 1. So if this is 1, I am talking about the area which is inside this circle. When I talk about sigma is equal to 0, that means I am talking about this imaginary axis which is nothing but the periphery of this Z plane. Similarly, when I am talking about sigma is greater than 0, this is nothing but this outer region of the Z plane. So by having different values for this sigma, I can conclude that right hand side plane, which is S plane, would come into the area which is outside the unit circle. This imaginary axis would form the circle itself, and all the values which is on the left side of the S plane, they would form the inside of this unit circle. So to summarize, if I plot certain kind of poles here on this area, I would say the poles which are present on the right hand side of the S plane, the poles would remain at the outside of the unit circle. The poles which are on the imaginary axis will form the unit circle, and poles which are present on the left hand side of the S plane, they would come inside the unit circle. And I know for a stable system I would require only the poles which are inside this unit circle, or if I want a system to be marginally stable, the poles should be in the unit circle. So this is a direct mapping by which I can see this particular S plane is being mapped into the Z plane, and different poles which were present here onto the imaginary axis are now mapped onto this particular circle of radius r. If I consider r is equal to 1, I would simply call that they have been placed onto the unit circle. So this is how we map all the poles of the S plane to the Z plane. So what are the various limitations of this method? The very first thing is this particular designing technique can be used to realize only low pass filter and limited cases of band pass filter. We cannot design band reject filter or high pass filter using this particular technique, because there is an issue which is called as an aliasing, which arises whenever we try to transform these signals from analog domain to digital domain using this particular technique. So to understand this issue, I simply have a signal, say this is a particular signal that I want to transform. Then the output of the signal would have particular images of these particular signal which are overlapping with each other. So these overlapping areas are something which I would never require, or it could be a kind of distortion, or you can categorize them a kind of noise into my signal. But whenever I try to transform the signal from one domain to another domain, or I create a system which is in analog domain and coming to digital domain using impulse invariant transformation, I am going to suffer from this particular issue which is called as an aliasing. This is an issue which can be eradicated to some level using a sampling frequency as high as possible, even higher than the Nyquist rate, which is compulsory for performing the sampling of that particular signal. But yes, not completely. I will not be able to eradicate this particular system, this particular phenomenon from impulse invariant transformation. So we have another transformation which is called as the bilinear transformation, by which we would be able to eradicate this problem of aliasing, but again it would also have certain limitation of itself. So before moving to this bilinear transformation, we will move to certain examples. How do we create a system digitally with this impulse invariant system? So we have this particular function which I need to convert using this particular technique. So I see this numerator and denominator, which I have to map using certain mapping techniques which are available to me. This is my time domain signal. This is a table consisting of Laplace transform, and this is something representing my Z transform. So I have to match up that which is a particular function this particular equation looks like. So this looks like s plus a square, and say this is certain frequency, or I can represent it variable b. So what is the particular transformation for this particular representation? This is a representation for time domain representation, e raised to the power minus at cos omega naught n. So the first step for impulse invariant transformation is coming back to the time domain, and third step would be moving to the Z domain. So its corresponding mapping is in the Z domain is being represented by this particular function. So by jumping these particular two steps, I get the final representation which represent my digital IAR system. So this is the basic representation which is representing this given transfer function, and the final solution appears like this. This is a matching function, this is the corresponding Z transform. T has been given as 1, the value of A is 0.2 and value of B is 3, that is square root of this particular value 9. So by substituting all these values here in this Z transform function, this is the function representing my digital IAR filter. Similarly, another form of representation can be 1 over s plus a into s plus b. I do not have any mapping table corresponding to this particular function. So first I have to bring it into a standard form. Bringing this function into a standard form would require partial fractions. After partial fraction, this is a way I can represent the standard equation. And then again I would have to perform the two step coming in time domain, and from time domain going back to the Z domain. So this would be my final representation of IAR system corresponding to this analog system which is representing my IAR filter. So that's all for this session. We'll be discussing about another technique of transformation, that is bilinear transformation, in the upcoming session. Thank you.